All right, guys, our next guest is like a professor when it comes to combat analysis. You know his excellent work from his channel, Full Reptile, and his phenomenal interviews, fight previews, reactions, live streams, as well as, of course, his great work on BT Sport with the Dan Hardy Breakdown Show. He is kind enough to join us here once again with some funky glasses to really get us ready for UFC 260. Look at this. Dan Hardy, man, welcome back to Submission Radio. This is a pleasure, dude.
How are you guys? We're making this quite regular now, aren't we?
I know. This is the thing. We're going steady, man. I think this is a pretty happy relationship. But you got to explain to us what's going on with these glasses. This is this like a new tradition, like when you had the visors that you would go get from Fremont Street in Vegas?
I've got a visor. I can grab the visor. It's just hanging up over there. Now these are. I've been in the studio all day. We've done podcasts and I've recorded 3 war rooms today. But these are actually my Fight Island hotel. These were in the mini bar. See there we go, W Hotels.
Yeah.
So I've got like 3 or 4 pairs. I used to check them out at the mini bar all the time. It was like they were like $6 or something, but they're just good after I've been under the lights all day. I can kind of just dim the lights a little bit and myself a bit of respite.
Nice. How many robes do you have as well from the Fight Island? There's got to be like 20 robes, right?
Yeah. A whole wardrobe. I'm actually having the house extended so I can fit more robes in.
A robe
Dan
room.
Pants to the left. There's like the mini fridge. There's some nice statues from his room. I love it, man. I love it. We're definitely on the same page as well with you. Let's get into the card, man. There's so much to talk about. First of all, let's start here. What do you think about this matchmaking with Khamzat Chimaev, of course, fighting Li Jingliang in this 3-rounder? Obviously, Khamzat's been gone for a while. He's had to deal with COVID. He had some adverse reactions, and now he's going up against the number 11th ranked Li Jingliang. Do you like this move? Do you think this is a good matchmaking move by the UFC after Khamzat's been gone for quite some time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could bring him in against anybody lower ranked, to be honest, because the expectations on him are so high. And I think, if he is going to settle at welterweight, then the Leech is a good, it gives us a good idea of where he's at without waiting around too long. Like the Leech is a tough individual. He takes a shot well. He's always eager to fire back as soon as someone's throwing towards him, which, that's what we need against someone like Khamzat. We need someone that's game. I mean, Meerschaert was closed down so quickly that we didn't really get to see any of his game. And, the 2 boys before, John Phillips and Reece McKee, they just didn't have enough to offer in the grappling range. And I don't know whether that's going to be the case with the Leech either. He might find himself in the same situation. But he's game for sure. And he's proven against, top flight opponent. He's coming off a big win over Ponzinibbio. So it puts Khamzat in a good position. My only question is, how is he after COVID? He was talking about retirement a few months ago. So I hope he's healthy, because expectations are so high that it would be very easy for him to fall short. And, that's not a nice thing when you're only 10 fights in. I mean, this is his 10th pro fight. He's not really been going very long.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially with, the whole motto of it's easy, brother. I just smash everybody.
I just smash.
Yeah, exactly. Just smash, bro.
Yeah.
Smash, SMESH. But also, it's good that it's not a 5-round main event, with COVID kind of attacking his lungs. You don't really want him being tested that much too soon. There was the talks of the Rockhold fight at one point. So I love this matchup. But let's assume, he's all right after COVID. What are sort of the biggest questions that you have surrounding Khamzat? Because, with the Leon Edwards matchup and just in general, the next fight, people wanted to know things like, all right, what's his endurance like, say, in the later rounds? What is his ability to, go through adversity and take a shot? What for you is the biggest question surrounding Khamzat that you're hoping gets answered this weekend?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping that the Leech has something to offer in way of takedown defense, because, Phillips and McKee didn't have anything for Khamzat. They weren't able to offer anything back either. So I do want to see someone that's able to at least, make him work harder for a takedown. The other thing, Meerschaert, I didn't expect him to do that. I expected him to quite happily be on his back. So I didn't think he was going to try and slow Khamzat's wrestling game down at all, more be accepting and then try and sub him off his back. Whereas the Leech, he really doesn't want to be on the floor. Like, I don't see any benefit in Jingliang being on the floor, top or bottom, really, with Chimaev. I think the best thing for him to do is to keep it on the feet, plant his feet and slug it out. And if he can stuff a couple of Chimaev's takedowns, then that's where the Leech comes into his own, because he does take a hell of a shot. And we know he's got rocks for fists as well as a head full of rocks. That's the kind of person that will push Chimaev if he can keep him on the feet. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm caught up in the same thing. My expectations of him are very high. I don't think the Leech is really going to have much to offer as far as wrestling, and I do think that Khamzat's going to be able to overcome him fairly comfortably. I would be surprised, to be honest, if the Leech is able to really push him in any range. But then I might be falling into the same trap as other people and expecting a lot from Chimaev. But I do think it's warranted.
It's going to be very fascinating just to see where Khamzat's at. And also, like you mentioned, man, the Leech, what a huge win for him this would be as well. This would really sort of push him to the next level in terms of popularity. Obviously, we already know he's a very tough fighter. If things do go to plan for Khamzat this weekend, though, what do you think his future looks like? I mean, the welterweight division is very, very packed. There's not a ton of new and fresh contenders there for Kamaru Usman. Obviously, Colby's having this rematch. Burns already lost. Jorge's lost twice. There's Leon. But if Jorge beats him, then that derails him. And obviously, Stephen Thompson, but he needs a win. Chiesa lost. Vicente is up there, but he's hoping for Nate Diaz. So, true or false, Dan, that if Khamzat Chimaev comes out there and puts on a crazy, crazy performance, somehow in some crazy turn of way, he could possibly even fight for this welterweight belt at some point in 2022.
You know, with the way things are going right now, it won't surprise me if he's fighting for the interim belt in his next fight at all. And I think it would be very odd, especially given how difficult it was for Leon to even get close to it. So it would be a bit disappointing if that was the case, because it would just devalue the whole division. But I think there've got to be a couple of guys willing to step up and take him, because I mean, you know, someone like a Vicente Luque or Neil Magny, or, you know, someone that's you know, we know how they compare with the top of the division. I mean, Neil Magny's up there in the rankings for, you know, control time and takedowns and those kind of things. Like, that might be a good matchup. And I remember Magny saying that he would take that fight. So that might be a next logical step. We need to move him forward, but not throw him right up there at the top straight away, because, you know, he's got so much potential, and we don't want to waste these guys' potential. Like, I was a bit concerned with Cyril Gane, because he's still early in his career. You know, it might be a bit too soon for him to be contending up at the top of the heavyweight division, but that's the way of the sport right now. If you're exciting and people want to watch you fight, you get doors open to your left, right, and center. I just hope the right door's open to him, and I don't think he needs to be anywhere near a title shot for his next 2 or 3 fights.
It's also a bit of a strange situation in the division, in the sense that Ali Abdelaziz obviously manages kind of like the top guys in the division: Luque, Usman, Burns, and now Chimaev. It's kind of one of the first, I think, that I can think of situations where you've kind of got one guy managing all these fighters that are all trying to fight each other. Do you kind of find that kind of fascinating? Because a big part of getting these title shots and interim fights and stuff like that is getting the right deals done. But here you have sort of one guy making all the deals for all the fighters, I guess, kind of. It's a weird situation.
Well, he's put himself in a very strong position, just generally in the sport. I mean, you know, you've got to think that a manager that is able to recruit fighters as quickly as him has got to have good relationships both directions. And the most important thing is a good relationship with the UFC, because, I mean, that is a difficult thing to do, especially as a manager. Like, your job is to ask for what the UFC don't want to give you, which is more money. So I don't know whether he's developed such a relationship with the UFC where he knows how much to push his luck, but not to push it too far. And he gets looked after because of that. Maybe that's the case, but it puts him in a very powerful position in the sport and in the UFC. If ever he was to decide that he wanted to, you know, go a different direction, he would take a lot of fighters with him. Interesting.
Yeah, he could start his own organization tomorrow if he took all his talent. He's got like 50% of the roster on his client list.
Ali FC.
Oh, man. So continuing with this is like a Europe versus the world, this card, basically. I love it. And continue with that theme. You've obviously got the people's main event at Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. One of the reasons why people love this one is because they've been kind of circling each other for the last couple of years, and now they've kind of traded positions. Dan Hooker was almost fighting for the title. Now it's Islam that's being touted as kind of like the future of the division. And, Dan, after spending majority of his last camp training out of his garage for a striker, no less, now he's stepping up on 1 month's notice and, he's in syndicates in the PI. Do you think that's enough time to prepare, ideally for a guy like Islam Makhachev to beat him?
It's not the ideal case scenario. Absolutely not. What would be ideal is for him to have done a full training camp at somewhere like, I don't know. I mean, like a big gym that could throw a lot of wrestlers at him. I was going to say AKA, but obviously that's not going to work. But this, like, he would need to find a wrestling school with a lot of bodies that can just keep working. Maybe TriStar would be a good shout. Like that would be an ideal circumstance. And to get a full 10 weeks to prepare for Makhachev. In this case scenario, he's going to be relying on what he's already got, and then whatever he can pick up in training camp. And it might be enough. No, absolutely, it might be enough. But it's hard to see it. It's hard to see it, especially because he's not one of the. I mean, City Kickboxing are known for their talented strikers, but he's not one of the most calculated out of that training, out of that camp. If you look at the other guys around him, they're far more. A lot of them are far more technical, especially Izzy. It's like Hooker likes to put himself at harm's reach a bit too much for me. And in this fight, it's all going to be about the decision making and the choosing of his weapons. Like if he's getting closed down by Makhachev, the priority has got to be to defend. And Hooker's the kind of person that might get caught up and decide he wants to throw a knee instead. And that one knee might land, but it also might land him on his back. That's really the most likely scenario. But the truth is, now is the best time to fight Makhachev because in 6 months he's going to be better. So I don't know, I don't know when the best time to fight him is. It was probably 5-10 years ago when he was a young teenager. Like it's going to be a hard fight for Dan Hooker. There's no doubt he's got the skills to do it, and he's been competing at the higher level. So he's got that comfort and he's got that. I mean, he feels like he's like that's his octagon. There's no doubt about that. He owned the place when he fought Paul Felder, even though that was a real tough back and forth fight. I think he feels like he's going to be able to push Makhachev around a little bit in this one once he's established some range. But Makhachev just doesn't give people the breathing room to do it, and his striking's great to complement his grappling as well. I think it's a hard night for Hooker, and I respect him for taking the fight. But to take it and to not have the ideal preparation is even less ideal.
Best time to fight Makhachev 25 years ago when he was still in primary school. I was going to say, this is interesting because, and I also think people don't look at it from the perspective of Islam doesn't have probably as much time to prepare for a guy like Dan Hooker, who has a lot of little secrets that he brings with him into the cage, and a lot of things that a lot of opponents don't really realize that he's that good at because he's always evolving as a fighter as well. What do you think about Dan asking for 5 rounds instead of 3? Because he was on the show talking about it just earlier this week to us. And ultimately, who do you think it benefits if it was changed?
Well, I mean, I think it benefits Hooker, to be honest. I like Makhachev's reply. It's like, it would only be worse for you, basically. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because one quality that Hooker brings to the table, which is undeniable, he's a good striker. He's dangerous at long range and at close range. It's his toughness. It's the thing that will get him into the championship rounds. It's the thing that's got him into those 4th and 5th rounds in the past. And sometimes you're getting wrestled and you're not getting damaged, and sometimes your conditioning's going to hold up and you're not going to, I mean, he could lose all 3 rounds and not really take a lot of damage. That's where the 3 rounds works against him, because if he had a 4th and 5th round, he'd have 2 more shots at landing something before he ends up on his back. I mean, like it's like my fight against GSP. It wouldn't have been any different if it had been 3 rounds or 5 rounds, but I felt like I had 5 opportunities to land something instead of 3. So, that's I guess that's the reality of a 5-round fight, is his toughness would give him more opportunities to land. But Makhachev might just come and put it on him in the first 2 rounds, and then he might not have anything left. I think it's a lot of gamesmanship, and I like it, but I don't think the UFC are going to change it at this point.
Bastards. Why can't we have nice things, UFC? Because he was kind of calling out, not really calling out, but because Javier Mendez came out and was saying that his only chance is basically to finish Makhachev. If he doesn't score a knockout, he's not going to win the fight. And Dan was saying, like, I know what you're doing. You want me to chase that knockout so that I get a bit more, heavy-footed and kind of planted, and then it's easy to take me down. So you're right. And I think, even the 5 rounds thing, there's so much gamesmanship. But when Dan speaks, it's like he speaks as if he knows a secret that nobody else knows about Islam Makhachev. Obviously, we didn't ask him this because it's like he's not going to give us his game plan, yesterday. But when you look at Makhachev, do you see any chinks in the armor? Do you see anything that Dan might know and think, look, there's a pretty clear path to victory for Dan?
The only thing that springs out, obviously, is, Makhachev's got that one loss on his record. He has been caught, he has been clipped, and maybe Dan Hooker feels like, he's just come off a full training camp, he's fought recently. Maybe he feels like he can jump on Makhachev really early, and he's got sort of 90 seconds to put a dent in him. That was an observation and we spoke about it before with Poirier. He always looks a little bit tense to me for the first minute or two of the fight. Maybe Hooker feels like he can catch him with something. It might be a simple observation like, if he stands in a particular stance, it makes Makhachev more uncomfortable to shoot. It could be a simple observation like that. And then a striker like Hooker then starts stitching on fight-ending scenarios onto the end of these things, and it starts looking like Mortal Kombat. You might be visualizing the flying knee to the head as Makhachev level changes or something. These are the games that we play inside our heads. I hope he's seen something. Absolutely, because it would be very difficult to find a chink in that armor. But I do think the chink in the armor would be exposed in the third round as opposed to the first. I think he's gonna have to work through some rough spots before he gets there. And I think Makhachev's only going to get better.
It's one of those fights where a part of you, when you analyze it, you go, all right, Islam would probably win it. But then when you think about all those sort of X factors that Dan Hooker brings to the fight, a part of you kind of wants to go with him as well, just because of the scenarios that go through our minds. It happens in the sport. Ultimately, though, man, who's your pick? Who are you leaning towards if you had to sort of say it today with the fun glasses on right now?
I think these are my serious glasses.
Okay, all business.
I honestly, I think it's clear cut for Makhachev to win a decision. To take him down and control him. I think we might see Hooker looking up at the clock and looking frustrated and kind of hoping that the referee might intervene and stand them up. But I expect Makhachev not to play any games. He's a tactician, and he's not going to get caught up in any kind of desire to trade with Hooker. I don't think we're going to see it. I think he'll be intelligent about setting up his takedowns, but ultimately that will be his game. And I think Hooker will struggle with that. But like you said, we hang on those moments, those flashpoints where he might be able to time a knee at the right spot, or he might be able to switch his stance and throw a little screw uppercut up the center line, or might be just quicker off the mark, might land that calf kick that he battered Paul Felder with in the first round, and then Makhachev's going to be a sitting duck for his long range. I could give you a few scenarios, but if I try and nail it down, I think Makhachev mauls him for 15 minutes, and we see a very frustrated Dan Hooker on the end of it.
I don't want to put like the horse before the cart, the cart before the horse. But when you look at Islam, do you see him as like a potential future champion? When you see him with his skill set and assuming that he will improve at least a little bit before he potentially gets a title shot, do you see what everybody else sees? And also, because he's so young, do you think that he might even be able to surpass Khabib if he can win that belt? Not in terms of fame, obviously Khabib had the massive, Conor fight, and Khabib was kind of the first to do it in that way. But just in terms of like maybe title defenses, because it doesn't seem like Islam's going anywhere anytime soon. It feels like he's almost just beginning his career.
Yeah, it does, and that's what's scary about it. What is he, 20-1? He's already laid such a strong foundation in this division, and he's already put himself in a position where fights are going to be difficult to get, which means that the UFC are going to keep looking further up the rankings, and it's going to open more doors for him. This is no slight on him, but I certainly think that Khabib had a charisma all the way through his career that is, unique to him. And I think that was a big part of his appeal. Like Makhachev's a worker. And I will say that, technically his striking is better than Khabib's, and I think Khabib's acknowledged that as well. And there is definitely room to grow. And, funnily enough, I was talking to somebody about this today. I remember my teacher once saying that if I'm not better than him, when I get older, that he's failed at his job. And I bet Khabib has got that same mentality with Makhachev. I bet he wants to make Makhachev a much better version of him. There's no ego attached to Khabib. He's not going to withhold anything, which means that Makhachev's got the benefit of all of that experience of Khabib, as well as the doors opening for him and whatever training he needs. I think we're no doubt looking at a champion. And one other thing I'll add to that is, he's always got wrestling to fall back upon. I mean, who in the division is going to cause him issues? Maybe someone like a Gregor Gillespie would be a fun one to watch, or the winner of the Gaethje Chandler fight, perhaps. But if you think back to the Makhachev fight against Arman Tsarukyan, it was one of the best displays of MMA wrestling I've ever seen from both guys. And Tsarukyan was so competitive, but just not quite. Makhachev was always a little bit ahead of him, and I feel like he's always going to have that to fall back upon. He's always going to have that safety net of, I can put you where I want you and beat you up if I can't beat you with striking. And that's a terrifying thing.
Man, I can't wait to see this fight. It's going to be so exciting to see who can win it. And again, big kudos to Dan for keeping this fight alive, because I do feel like it's one of those fights where it's kind of like the people's main event, like what Casper said. But speaking of some of the fights leading on later on in the night, we've got Jan versus Corey Sandhagen for the interim belt, and what could be the fight of the night as well. I mean, how do you see Jan's crisp boxing compared to Sandhagen's long and unorthodox but vastly improved striking? And let's not forget, Sandhagen's really had a bit of a run of being in there and experiencing some of the best guys in the division back to back, which, it doesn't hurt his improvements every time sort of we see him in that octagon.
Yeah, a fascinating fight. I mean, I did my BT Sport breakdown on this one as opposed to the main event, because there was such interest in it. I mean, usually I would cover the main event, but I did a poll on my Instagram, and it was like 72% of people wanted this fight breaking down. So I was fortunate enough to spend the weekend on it. It's a fascinating bout. The big difference between the two is, One of them is a switch stance fight. Petr Yan switches his stance. He uses his footwork very well, and he switches his stance to open up his striking options and to help him control the space. Corey's a fluid stance fighter. There's never a time when he's settled in one stance. I was even sitting here timing him with a stopwatch to see how long he was staying in a stance, and it barely meets 15 seconds, whereas Yan, 2-3 minutes sometimes in a settled stance. So that's a big point of difference, as well as the height and reach of Corey. But there's also the variety of Corey's game. He's got great kicks. We've seen low kicks, body kicks, and that spinning head kick against Moraes. He's got that wicked liver shot that he digs in. He's got a nice step across rear uppercut that he throws that we saw a lot in his LFA fights, but has not seen too much in the UFC. But I think that might be useful in this fight. Loads and loads of striking skills and loads of ways to kind of build these combinations. But the difference is that he's active, he's throwing, he's testing, he's like 20-30% shots just to kind of see what you do with your head. I mean, if you think back to his fight against Bautista, he kept throwing that jab out there to watch where his head was dipping to before he caught him with that flying knee. And with Frankie Edgar, he needed 28 seconds to get that read on him for the knee. He's got a lot of things he can throw at Petr Yan, and Yan's got great footwork, but he doesn't do a lot when he's moving forward. He uses the threat of something happening. He makes people uncomfortable because he's not doing anything. If you watch his fight against Teruto Ishihara, like the first minute of the fight, Ishihara does double the work rate when Yan does nothing, purely because he feels pressured. He feels like he has to do something. Now, the good thing with that is that he's able to squeeze people up against the fence, where he can then start cutting them off and catching them like he did against Jimmy Rivera. But the downside is that he's there to be hit, and I think that's where Corey can kind of feast a little bit in this fight. Use those long range arms to pick him off and then maybe set him up for those flying knees, or just circle out and find some space. The clinch work's really interesting as well, of course, because Petr Yan's got such good wrestling, but Corey just throws anything at the table depending on what position he's in. He's so good at turning the momentum of the fight around and taking control back. I honestly think it's a fascinating one. I expected me to be leaning much more towards Petr Yan after doing the breakdown, but Corey's shown me a lot of things that could be a problem for Peter in this fight. It's very, very evenly matched one.
I know you listed a lot of things then, but that knee just always stands out to me because of how quick it is. And it just comes out of nowhere. Like, it's such a big strike, a fight-ending strike, but he just whips it out like nothing. When you watch that, what is the key? How is he able to do it so well? Obviously, he's tall, and a lot of the guys are shorter than him, but like against Edgar, it was just perfect. And he threw it so many times against TJ. And if TJ wasn't made out of, I don't know, that guy's so tough. I couldn't believe how he was able to wear that. He probably would have finished TJ. So how does he do it in your breakdown, Dan?
Well, like I said, because he throws a lot of stuff, he gets his opponents reacting over and over again. Now, if I'm fighting someone and they throw 3 punches in a minute, say if I'm fighting Tyron Woodley and he throws 3 punches around, I've got time to think about those punches coming and see them coming and get out of the way of them. If he's throwing 60 punches around, then I've got a lot more to think about, and a lot more of it becomes automatic, reaching, slipping, moving your head in directions that are kind of pre-trained within you before you got tired. So then when you start to get tired or flustered or reactive based on the volume that's coming at you, then you start to open yourself up for things here's a great example of how this fight could play out. Like Petr Yan, as you know, he's got that real tight guard. He uses his lead hand to kind of skirmish and poke at his opponent. And this is ambidextrous. It doesn't matter what style he uses. But because he's got a boxing background, he uses those same pockets of safety when he's in the pocket trading with someone. So if he's marching forward and he starts throwing a shot, he might sometimes dip into this space down here, which is safe in boxing, but it's not safe in MMA. And that's, I think, where Corey might be able to catch him, because Petr Yan's defense is slipping and tight, but he's close range. And you're right about Corey with the knees. Same thing with his LFA fights. He was landing flying knees and knocking people off their feet. He kept landing it on John Lineker as well. It was just bouncing off John Lineker's head. But TJ Dillashaw, Sun Tzu, he did it to all of these guys. And against TJ Dillashaw, the risk is that you get caught in the air, right? The risk is that you get caught and slammed to the floor. And when TJ caught him, he was able to push him into an inverted triangle. And that's a good example of A, how he's confident to throw it because he's fine wherever the fight goes, and B, his ability to adapt in the moment and immediately make his opponent think about defense instead of offense. He's going to throw everything at Petr Yan. I feel like something's probably going to get through. It's whether he gets cut down in the process and Petr Yan's able to either club him as he's circling off the fence or get him to the floor where he can't quite wriggle as much. But I think he's going to be an absolute handful. And I will say this as well. I know he's in a division with guys that have got great footwork, and he styles his footwork very much on Dom Cruz and TJ Dillashaw. But I actually think it's starting to get to the stage where he's surpassing them. His footwork is very, very slick, and it's purposeful as well. And this is sometimes where the other guys, they do footwork for footwork's sake. They do a lot of bouncing around when they don't really need to be moving at all. Corey doesn't do that. You can see he's constantly planning. He's like an apex predator, really. How he's reading people and seeing how he picks them off. Not that Jan's any different. He just waits to take a big bite out of you, whereas, Sandhagen nibbles at you all the way through.
Yeah. All of a sudden, people in Australia and New Zealand have a reason to get up at 5 a.m. to watch these fights. A few reasons, actually. Speaking of nibbles, don't forget our good friends at Canadip CBD, a great tasting, superior alternative to the traditional dip, using CBD in a way that is radical. By the way, the same guys that gave away free tickets to UFC 268, free tickets, free airfare, free luxury lodging. Congratulations if that was you. They do a great job. All flavor, no tobacco, no nicotine pouches that are spit free, and it comes in 5 core flavors, which are wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, American spice. And look, let's be honest, man, the traditional dip, it's a hassle, it's addictive and messy. It's also over 100 years old. Other alternatives, they're just not good enough for you guys today. They're either still addictive, still messy, or taste terrible. Canadips is the new evolution in dip, allowing you guys to enjoy great long-lasting taste without the downsides. They use 100% American-grown hemp combined with a water dispersible technology so it absorbs rapidly, and they've developed a way to deliver CBD through the mouth that nobody else has, so you can actually enjoy it. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And if you want to try it today, click the link in the description below and use the code word submission for 20% off Canadips, or visit canadipscbd.com. And of course, follow them at Canadips on Instagram for all their latest deals and offers. But Cass, we're talking about the fights with Dan Hardy right now. Man, there are so many crazy X factors coming up this weekend that people can really make some serious money on. There is only one place to go to make that money, and that is at MyBookie. Sign up this week with promo code submission and take advantage of up to a $1,000 bonus on your first deposit. That's promo code submission. Grab yourself a free cash bonus on top of free bets and boosted odds and all sorts of great things that MyBookie has to offer. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with the code word submission and MyBookie for this weekend at UFC 267, Cass.
That's right. Make that money. Now, I know that these winter jackets that you guys love commenting on may not tell the story, but it's actually heading into summer here in Australia and New Zealand. And I don't know, man, sun's out, guns out, and other things are going to be out as well. You don't want to be caught with your pants down and have a bush down there. So get the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, the best grooming tool on the market, in the world, I should say, with the 7,000 RPM power, the skin-safe technology. Never, ever have your balls look like a fight of the night candidate ever again. You've got multiple guards so you can trim your pubes to whatever length or texture you like. The LED light, it's waterproof. It's got up to 90 minutes of battery power. The 4.0 comes with a charging dock, and it's wireless as well. So what an easy way to just leave it, let it charge, and do it whenever you're ready. And the Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball toner, the Crop Reviver ball toner, and also some underwear and the Shed travel bag to keep it all together. A nice little gift, isn't that right, Dennis? Preparing you for the hot guy summer that you deserve.
Yeah, that's it, man. Be a total smoke show with Manscaped. What about that travel bag, man? We've used that on multiple trips. That thing is great, and the underwear is so comfortable. You know, shave that bush, improve your reach, and get a couple of inches with Manscaped today. Use the code word submission. Get free shipping. That's code word submission. 20% off and get free shipping thanks to Manscaped, man. This is going to be a really great summer thanks to Manscaped for everybody listening at home. But Dan, let's look at the main event because it's kind of a battle of the underdogs. Two guys who've had a couple of years where they were precisely on nobody's radar to become champion. And considering Glover last fought for the title all the way back in 2014 and got thoroughly dominated by John Jones, this is actually insane that here he is some 7 years later, once again fighting for the title. And although he's much older, actually having a pretty good chance. So, Dan, how do you think this Moneyball version of Glover with a more the wrestling and the wrestling heavy game stacks up against Yan as we go into the fights this weekend at UFC 267?
I'm looking forward to this one. I like both of these guys. I think well, first of all, I like the fact that they're both either as old or older than me. So, you know, that makes me feel good about things. There's still time. Jan's dangerous in every range. He's got great striking. He's good body kicks. He's got, I mean, obviously that left hook is his main weapon, the one he caught Rockhold and Dom Reyes with. But he's got great takedown defense. He's a black belt on the ground, and we saw how well he handles the ground with Nikita Krylov. You know, he's a very good grappler. The thing about Glover Teixeira, and I talk about this with the guys at the gym. We refer now to the foundational game of mixed martial arts as your Glover Teixeira game, because you can ping that guy with a golf club around the side of the head, and he can have 10% consciousness and still land a double leg, still find himself in mount, and then still force people to turn and either give their back or give an arm triangle. And that is one of the most impressive things about him, because I think he's 41. As you said, he had his last title shot back in the 1960s. It's incredible what he's doing. He's found a rhythm and a routine and a foundational game that even when he's fighting someone that's bigger or faster or hits more powerfully than he does or catches him with a big shot. I mean, honestly, I did a war room on this for the was it his Thiago Santos fight, and it was just like, I mean, I honestly, I felt like someone had sent me the script of the fight. It was Thiago Santos fight. I felt like someone had sent me the script of the fight. It was so obvious what was going to happen. because Santos was definitely going to catch him with a big shot and hurt him. He was going to go down, and then Santos was going to get that adrenaline rush of excitement because, oh, he's gone down. This is the time to finish him. Go sprinting forward, and then next thing he's tangled up and he's in a rear naked choke. Same thing happened to Kutalaba. Same thing happened to Robertson with the arm triangle. Same thing happened to Anthony Smith in the 5th round, getting beaten up. I mean, you know, he gets the worst round out the way early, and then he gets stronger as the fight goes on. This is a really competitive match, but I do feel like Jan's got the advantage because I think he's less susceptible to damage in his game, and I think he learned his lesson of being excitable against Santos when he ran onto that 3rd round knockout punch. So I expect Yang to kind of hold back, wait for Glover to come to him, and then catch him probably with that counter left hook, maybe even soften him up with the body kicks as well. And then maybe probably catch him as they break the clinch. The discipline for Yan is going to be not following Glover to the floor. Like, knock him down, hits the deck, call him back up again. Let's go again. Because you just don't want to tangle with that guy. He could be half asleep. I mean, imagine having to wake that guy up if he was asleep. You'd be rear naked choked before he knew he was awake. You just don't want to tangle on the floor with him, not at any point in the fight.
I feel like it's almost like the battle of fight IQs because two guys with incredible fight IQs, Glover and Yan. You know, we saw Jan's fight IQ when he fought Israel, and obviously Glover being able to sort of switch things up Moneyball style. So I'm very excited to see that.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, you know, I think discipline, like you kind of summarized, is going to be the key for Yan here. Like even yesterday, like when I was prepping for this, I could just picture like Yan knocking down Glover, and then the difference between Glover's past few fights is that Yan waves him up. I'm not following you, like, come back. But the funny thing is, like, Jan was kind of like a grappler early on in his career. Now he's a striker. Now he's legendary Polish power. But he was all about the grappling early on. And he was saying to us, you know, months ago, he's like, I'm not worried. He said, I'm going to try and get up. I'm going to just, if he takes me down, I'm going to try and get up and try and knock him out. But at the same time, like, you know, if I get the opportunity to submit him, I'll go for it. I'm not scared. So we shall see. As we let you go, Dan, just really quickly wanted to ask, what is the latest as far as your next fight? I know last time you were saying John Wayne Parr, that was the big target. Are there any updates? Is this Tyron Woodley contract signed? Have you gotten a contract? What's going on here?
Yeah, any more DMs?
No more DMs. But I will say this, my contract is signed. And I know that he's got a contract sitting in front of him and the deadline is approaching and he doesn't want to sign it. And I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is because terms have been agreed, money's been agreed, date's been agreed, rules and conditions, weight class, everything's been agreed. But he hasn't yet signed the contract. So you tell me, Tyron Woodley, why have you not signed it? The frozen one. See, this is exactly my point, right? I wasn't even that interested in fighting him, but when I called him out for basically not fighting against Jake Paul, he started getting all upset about it. I called him out because he didn't want to fight, and now he doesn't want to fight. The easiest way for me to prove my point was to send him a contract, and he's not signing it. I mean, yeah, I don't know what his deal is. I think it's time for him to just call it a day because whether he's waiting around for that rematch with Jake Paul or something, I don't know, but he's just wasting his time at this point. He's talked a big game. He says he wants to fight. He's agreed. He's gone through all the deal. I've got medicals booked in on Monday, and if I don't hear from Tyron Woodley by the end of the week, I'll be looking elsewhere. And these medicals will clear me to fight for one championship as well. So I have got that option. I am in contact with John Wayne Parr. I do want that fight, but it would be ideal to get the Woodley one out the way first because, you know, start with boxing, then go to Muay Thai, then to kickboxing, then maybe MMA, and then we'll see where it goes. I mean, Sanchez keeps messaging me, so there might even be a bare knuckler in there towards the end. But I'm having a big year in 2020, and I want it to start with Tyron Woodley, so he needs to sign the contract.
Look at you, man. Everybody wants a piece of you. So it's boxing. It's not MMA, right? That's what the contract's for?
It'll be boxing.
And who's it
boxing.
with? Who did the offer come from?
Well, it's a new promotion, but it'll be the first quarter of next year in the UK. That's the plan. That's the deal. And the money that they offered him is good, and he's agreed to it. I know it's more than he's getting anywhere else as well. That's a fact. So he just needs to strap on a pair and sign the contract so we can get this done.
Wow. What was the date? Did you say? When do they want to do it?
It'll be March. We're looking at March.
Wow.
Wow. And just, are we looking at sort of welterweight? What kind of weight class are you looking at? Because I know you said you were getting shredded last time you were talking to us. What are we looking at?
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like, I knew there were going to be excuses, so I cut off all of the routes for excuses. These guys, I knew they were going to offer him money that was going to be appealing to him. There's plenty of time to prepare. There's no excuse there. I offered him the same weight class that he fought Jake Paul at, which is what, 190. Like, we can fight at whatever weight class he wants. We can do 205 if he wants. We can do uncapped, unlimited weight. I'm not bothered. He just needs to sign the contract. The money's good. The rounds are good. The promotion's good. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to light him up. I'm going to switch him off, and I'm going to prove my point that he doesn't like fighting.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to fights as well, this is a fantastic fight that fans have a lot of interest in, and you guys have this great rivalry. So from his perspective, this is a great way to sort of come back after that Jake Paul fight. So if he does see this, Dan, what is your message to Tyron Woodley if he sees this interview?
Just get your little pen out, the one that you wrote your I love Jake Paul on your finger, and write I'll fight Dan Hardy on this contract, and send it back to the promoter, and then we can get started.
Dude, I'm excited, man. This is awesome. Well, I hope the fight comes together for both of you. Follow the man on Twitter and Instagram at Dan Hardy MMA. Obviously, the incredible YouTube channel, Full Reptile. And, of course, the Dan Hardy Breakdown Show on BT Sport. Of course, check out The War Room and his book, Full Reptile. Dan, thank you so much for your time, man. The tradition goes strong, still going steady. Always appreciate you, man. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about the next time we chat.
Thanks, guys. Always good talking to you. Enjoy the fights.